Genshin Impact 7.0 has finally landed in the gacha space, and as you would expect, the past week has been, and even the next couple of weeks will still continue to be, filled with conversations surrounding this version. And I will be the first to tell you that in some parts, Genshin actually delivered. I mean, remembering the underwhelming start to the North Korea experience and understanding that Shinesnaya is just a continuation of that entire story experience, I went into Shinesnaya keeping my expectations for the environment and the story very minimal. But to my surprise, the Archon quest, the main story that 7.0 gave us, although it had one of the most dragged on start to a story I've ever seen in a gacha game, it still managed to deliver one of the strongest Genshin Impact experience I have ever had in a game. I mean, for a story introducing the audience to a new region, getting us into the culture, the politics, while at the same time leaving more than enough space to dive into the lore and the actual content we came for, Genshin Impact managed to keep a decent balance of everything that we experienced. And really, the conversations that have been had so far mostly reflect the good job that Genshin Impact has done with the Shinesnaya experience. I mean, it's been constant praise towards what the game has given us, how the story has presented itself, and what to expect in the future. With that being said though, mixed within all of that praise is one very particular and interesting criticism. A criticism that has absolutely nothing to do with this current version, not the story or the environments, not the characters or anything like that, no. Rather, it has everything to do with what we've seen about what we're going to get in the future, specifically about a particular character having a particular set of mechanics. And most importantly, about how this character having these mechanics brings so much attention to a particular criticism that we have made on this channel before. Criticism that points to a set of phenomenal characters that we have discussed not being given phenomenal treatment. Rather, it is the complete opposite with these characters. So what exactly is this criticism? Who exactly are the characters involved? How does this entire conversation affect Genshin Impact going forward? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So if you enjoyed the content, make sure to leave a like and let me know your thoughts on Genshin Impact 7.0 if you have played it. Has this given you enough reason to come back to the game, to play the game once again? Or has all the criticism online surrounding Genshin Impact right now been enough reason for you to still keep away from it? Tell me your thoughts and more in the comments below, and of course don't forget to subscribe if you should be on any of my future videos. Alright, let's get into it. See, although Genshin Impact is a game that, recently more than ever, has been showing more signs of improvement in almost every aspect, this is also a game that throughout its lifespan has received, and in some cases still receive, enormous criticism for everything it does, and for good reason. I mean, for the most part, as we all know, the Genshin devs have, in more cases than not, left their audience disappointed with certain decisions they've made and certain things they've implemented within the game. And mixed in with all these questionable decisions that Genshin Impact has made, especially when it comes to its characters, is one particularly hilarious one. And that is the idea of characters having strictly aesthetic wings. Wings being given to characters purely for decoration, completely unused by the characters themselves most of the time. And even more importantly, completely unused by us, the players playing these characters. But with that said though, here's something very surprising and honestly a little interesting. Because see, upon looking at the history of Genshin Impact, especially when it comes to this particular criticism, what we come to realize is that for the most part, it hasn't really been a major point of conversation. I mean, a lot of people complain about it these days, but a character like Kujou Sara has been within Genshin Impact for the better part of 4 years. A character who perfectly fits the description of the decorative winged character. One that doesn't just have a pair, but 2 pairs of wings on her back. But even with all of that, even with her having the exact features that should be the greatest cause for complaints in Genshin Impact, what we saw was that she was still a character that everyone accepted. No one really had a problem with it. So the obvious question is, why now? I mean, if this has always been a thing from the get-go, from the very beginning of Genshin Impact, why is there suddenly so much of an issue with aesthetic wings this far into the game, after all the silence we've had on the subject up until right now? And the answer to that question is one simple word: importance. I mean, with all the confusion around how weird it is for this entire wing situation to only be a recent issue, if we bring up importance into this entire conversation, well, that weirdness completely disappears and everything starts to make a whole lot more sense. See, yes, as I said before, Kujou Sara is a character that completely fits the description of a Genshin character with completely decorative wings. But then you have to ask, how important was Kujou Sara to the story that she was involved in? Or a better question is, how important is Kujou Sara to the major Genshin Impact story? I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm completely of the belief that this is not a name that we will ever come across again till the game reaches its conclusion. And this is not even a criticism. I mean, regardless of what gacha game we're talking about, not every character can have equal levels of importance. In order to move the plot forward, in order to direct the overarching story, place certain characters in positions where they can generate the most interest, there are inevitably going to be characters that fall by the wayside. Characters that show up maybe once or twice, play their role and never appear again. And as much as Kujou Sara fits the description of a decorative winged character, she also fits the description of one of those fallen characters. So it goes without saying that of course we wouldn't care. I mean, when you're talking about a character that isn't particularly important to the story and isn't even a major topic of conversation, complaining about really anything about them feels far more like a waste of time and energy than anything else. So now that we've established why we act the way we do towards these criticisms, why our attitudes towards certain characters is a lot more tame than towards others, here's a very interesting question. What happens when one of these seemingly unimportant characters is given infinitely more preferential treatments and much more care in their design and their movements than some of the most important characters in the entirety of the game? Well, you have a whole lot of understandably angry people. See, in case you are not aware, with the release of version 7.0 of Genshin Impact also came the release of the version 7.1 character leaks, where we saw movesets of the two new playable 5-stars that will be released in that version, Vodyanitsa and Vesna. And while both these characters have some incredibly unique playstyles that distinguish them from practically every other character in Genshin Impact, Vesna especially is the one that rubbed people the wrong way, and for the oddest reason. The devs actually listened with her, and they listened spectacularly. See, in the SHAMELESS trailer that we saw a couple of weeks ago, this was yet another character that we saw, one that was introduced with wings. But understanding the track record of Genshin Impact, this was also another character that the entire community immediately wrote off. I mean, yes, obviously she would be meta, she would be strong, but another thought that came in mind was that she would be basic, that she wouldn't really be animated properly, that the wings would be absolutely useless. I mean, that was the assumption, right until we saw the leaks. And not to divulge too much information for anyone who has not seen the leaks yet, the reality is, more than any single other character in the entire 6-year run of Genshin Impact, this is a character that makes the most use of her wings, more than any single character. And I'm sure you understand exactly what that means. I mean, we were just introduced to Vesna a couple of months ago. This is a character that we know absolutely nothing about, a character that will most likely only be relevant for the 7.1 story before we move on to the next story, to the next character. Yet she was given something that, during all the years of waiting for him, a character like Durin, who was relevant for 5 years before his release, was not given. And really, this is the other side of the conversation, where people have every right to be upset. I mean, as much as the Genshin community might try to hide it or meme around it, the reality is, there is absolutely no way a character that an entire community has been waiting for the better part of 4 to 6 years could under-deliver and everyone would simply be fine with it. But that is what's happened to characters like Durin and Nicole, a topic that I covered extensively, expressing frustrations for those who simply could not. And while it is true that, yes, the community had been hoping for these things to be given to more and more future characters, it does feel a certain type of way watching this happen to Vesna of all characters. I mean, while characters like Durin, Nicole, and Columbina had some of the most underwhelming animations that would make you question whether these characters were ever taken seriously by the developers, Vesna completely takes the cake with how she is delivered, going even way beyond simply being able to utilize her wings insanely better than the characters before her. But here's the thing though, even with all of that, even with all the understandable disappointment that a situation like this would make players feel, I cannot help but still believe that this is an absolute win for the community. I mean, as I said earlier, this is a spectacular devs listen moment. I mean, yes, while it would be much more preferable for characters like Durin or Nicole to not be the center of complaints, the reality still remains that from those complaints once emerged, people wanted characters to be a lot more. They wanted hype to actually be a part of the formula. They wanted the animations to actually matter. And for the 7.1 characters especially, if you look beyond the disappointments, this is exactly what Genshin Impact has given to its community. I mean, this is the prime example of the Genshin devs actually listening. So rather than looking at the characters that have already been released and how disappointing they were, why not take this as a positive sign for the characters that are still on the horizon? I mean, yes, Nicole was a disappointment, but Alice is still on the horizon. And more than anything, if what we're seeing with the 7.1 characters is going to become a trend within Genshin Impact, if we're getting animations like what was seen in the leaks with nameless, less important characters to the story, then imagine what Alice would deliver. Imagine how much a character like the Sarita, the Shades would deliver. I mean, there are still so many characters that Genshin still had the opportunity to work on and make as powerful as we understand them to be. And even though this may sound naive, having a perfect understanding of the company that we're talking about here, I still choose to be optimistic. As weird as this may sound, I choose to believe that maybe it's at the end of the game that we may finally start seeing the beginning of optimization. Or it could just be the complete opposites, the developers trolling the audience. I mean, this would not be the first time they have done so. And when as a multi-billion-dollar organization, you can go 6 years without giving your audience a skip button, it becomes very hard to take you seriously. But regardless though, this SHAMELESS journey is one that I'll be following very closely just to see how much the game grows and develops throughout. But that is just my opinion. What do you think? What are your thoughts on the newer characters within Genshin Impact? Do you believe this might be the start of legitimate growth within the game? Or do you believe the developers are once again just making fun of their audience? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.